Ya diddy die diddy die die die. 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 Die 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 Here we go. Yeah, diddy die, diddy die, die die. 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 Die 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 die. Die 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 die. Die 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 die. Die 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 die. 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 One more time. Yeah, diddy die, diddy die, die die. 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 Yeah, die 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 die. Yeah, die 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 die.
Yada da yada da 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 ya ya da da da. Yada da yada da da da. Yada da yada da da da. Yada da yada da 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 da. Ma tovu olecha Yaakov mishkenotecha Yisrael.
Ma tovu olecha Yaakov mishkenotecha Yisrael. Yada da yada da da da. Yada da yada da da da. Yada da yada da da da.
Ya da da da. Shabbat Shalom and welcome to our Shabbat morning service. We're coming to you from our beautiful sanctuary. For those of you out there who are our regular Shabbat morning congregants and friends, pay attention. Next week, we're going to have a bat mitzvah
A bat mitzvah,
in
yeah.
here, and you are welcome to join us with the family
It's
of
very exciting.
Evie Latman. So I hope you're able to come and celebrate for our first bat mitzvah in a while, at least in here with people. I am Rabbi Javier Carapan, and I am joined this morning by Leslie Zucker and our technical team. Special thanks to our Beyond Our Walls committee, who are really making possible this streaming that we have had for the last about 13 months or so.
Yeah.
Wow.
Lots of time.
But we're not stopping. We will continue, and we need more help always. So if you're technically inclined and would like to join this wonderful group of people, just let us know. We'll put you in touch with them, put you to work. If you're joining us on Facebook Live, you can find a link to the prayer book pages in the comments. And look at the comments. There's more information always coming through. And in the virtual sanctuary, you can find the link above the player, and everything else was included in the e-news. You say hello by typing Shabbat Shalom in the comments line. Tell us where you're watching from. Don't forget to click return, and make sure you write down Our technical assistance line, TAL 913-303-1134. If there are any issues with the streaming, they'll be able to get you back on. Again, welcome to our Shabbat morning service. We continue together on page 186.
מודה אני לפניך, מלך חי וקיים, שהחזרת בי נשמתי בחמלה, רבה אמונתך, רבה אמונתך. מודה אני לפניך, מלך חי וקיים, שהחזרת בי נשמתי בחמלה, רבה אמונתך, רבה אמונתך.
Page 194. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe, who formed the human body with skill, creating the body's many pathways and openings. It is well known before your throne of glory that if one of them be wrongly opened or closed, it will be impossible to endure and stand before you. Blessed are you, Adonai, who heals all flesh, working wondrously. Baruch ata Adonai, rofe chol basar, umafli la'asot.
אלוהי נשמה שנתת בי טהורה היא, אלוהי נשמה שנתת בי טהורה היא, אלוהי נשמה שנתת נשמה שנתת בי טהורה היא, אלוהי נשמה שנתת בי טהורה היא.
Page 198. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר נתן לשך ובינה להבחין בין יום ובין לילה.
אמן. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, פוקח עברים.
אמן. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, מתיר אסורים.
אמן. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, זוקף כפופים.
אמן. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, רוקע הארץ על המים.
אמן. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, המכין מצעדי גבר.
אמן. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, מלביש ערומים.
אמן. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, הנותן ליעף כוח.
אמן. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, המעביר שינה מעיני ותנומה מעפעפיי.
אמן. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, שעשני בצלם אלוהים.
אמן. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, שעשני בן חורין.
אמן. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, שעשני ישראל.
אמן. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, עוזר ישראל בגבורה.
אמן. ברוך ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, עוטר ישראל בתפארה.
Amen. Page 204, we join together in reciting the blessing for studying Torah, and our Torah study text is on the next page, Elu Dvarim. It's a text from the Mishnah. Baruch ata Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe, who hallows us with mitzvot, commanding us to engage with words of Torah.
אלו דברים שאין להם שיעור, אלו דברים שאין להם שיעור, אלו דברים שאין להם שיעור, ואלו הם כיבוד אבאים וגמילות חסדים והשכמת בית המדרש שחרית וערבית. אלו דברים שאין להם שיעור, אלו דברים שאין להם שיעור, אלו דברים שאין להם שיעור, ואלו הם והכנסת אורחים וביקור חולים והכנסת כלה ולוויית המת ועיון תפילה, ועיון תפילה ואהבת שלום בין אדם לחברו, בתלמוד תורה כנגד כולם, בתלמוד תורה כנגד כולם, בתלמוד תורה כנגד כולם. אלו דברים שאין להם שיעור, אלו דברים שאין להם שיעור, אלו דברים שאין להם שיעור, ואלו הם.
We continue with Pezukei the Zimra on page 212. Baruch she'amar v'haya ha'olam baruch hu, Baruch oseh v'reshit, Baruch omer v'hoseh, Baruch gozer u'mekayem, Baruch merachem al haaretz, Baruch merachem al habriot, Baruch meshalem sachar tov lireav, Baruch haylad v'kayam lanetzach, Baruch podeh u'matzil, Baruch shemo. Hallelujah is on page 218.
Hallelujah, hallelujah, bekodesho. Hallelujah, hallelujah, bireki auzo. Hallelujah, bigvurotav. Hallelujah, kerov kulo. Al-neshama tehallel. Hallelujah, 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 beteka shofar. Hallelujah, hallelujah, v'nevel v'chinor. Hallelujah, betof u'machor. Hallelujah, b'minim ve'ugav. Kol haneshama tehallel. Hallelujah, 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 betzilzelei shama. Hallelujah, hallelujah, betzilzelei teruah. Kol haneshama tehallel. Hallelujah, hallelujah, kol haneshama tehallel. Hallelujah, hallelujah.
We continue together on page 227 as we prepare for the recitation of the Shema. We begin with the blessing, and then we continue together on the next page, 228, with Or Chadash. Baruch Ata Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al mitzvat kriyat Shema, lehamlicho belevav shalem, ולייחדו בלבב טוב ולעובדו בנפש חפצה. Praise are you, Adonai, our God, ruler of the universe, who hallows us with mitzvot, commanding us how to recite the Shema, to declare wholeheartedly God's rule, to declare earnestly God is one, and to willingly worship God.
אור חדש על ציון תאיר, על ציון תאיר, אור חדש על ציון תאיר, על ציון תאיר, ונזכה כולנו ונזכה כולנו נהרה לאורו. אור חדש על ציון תאיר, על ציון תאיר, אור חדש על ציון תאיר, על ציון תאיר, ונזכה כולנו נהרה לאורו, ונזכה כולנו נהרה לאורו. ברוך אתה אדוני, יוצר המאורות, שמע ישראל, אדוני אלוהינו, אדוני אחד. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך, ודיברת בעם, בשבתך בביתך, ובלכתך בדרך, ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם אמת.
Emet. Page 239. Emet, there is no place where you are not, even in the wilderness there is your word. Emet, that pen strokes of lightning, white fire, black flame, stir the soul's passion, guide our sacred way. True and enduring is Torah. Your truth for us is certain and established, now and forevermore. Like Moses, Miriam, and all Israel, we sing and rejoice.
מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדר בקודש, נורא תהילות, עושה פלא, עושה פלא.
שירה חדשה שיבחו גאולים, לשמך שפת הים,
יחד כולם הודו והמליכו ואמרו, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדר בקודש, נורא תהילות, עושה פלא, עושה פלא, עושה פלא.
צו ישראל,
קומה בעזרת ישראל, ופדחנו ממך יהודה וישראל. גואלנו אדוני צבאות שמו, קדוש ישראל. ברוך אתה אדוני, גאל ישראל.
אדוני שפתי תפתח ופי יגיד תהילתך. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. יהיו לרצון אמרי פי, והגיון ליבי לפניך. אדוני צורי, Adonai, Tzuri, Vegoali, Vegoali.
Service continues. The service for the reading of the Torah begins on page 367 with Al Shlosha Dvarim.
Al Shlosha Devarim, Al Shlosha Devarim, Al Shlosha Devarim, Haolam Omer. Al Shlosha Devarim, Al Shlosha Devarim, Al Shlosha Devarim, Haolam Omer. Al HaTorah ve'al Avodah
על שלושה דברים, על שלושה דברים,
על שלושה דברים,
על שלושה דברים,
על שלושה,
שלושה דברים, העולם, העולם עומד.
There we go. I found that this week's Torah portion has one of the most difficult names of any other Torah portion. Just think, I don't even know how many syllables would be in English, but the name of the Torah portion is Be'ha'alotcha, Be'ha'alotcha. 6 perhaps, something like that. I have to look at it. The Hebrew may be as many as 7, but we'll see. It doesn't matter. It's very long. And it's opening, it's very well-known section, which is the first time that they were lighting the eternal light. So it says, Be'ha'alotecha, when you go up. That's what it means. But the section that we are reading today, as some of you know, come from the second of a triennial cycle, and it will be from chapter 9, beginning on verse 15 of the book of Numbers. If you click on the comments, you'll see the access to the reading. It's on sepharia.org. Now, where are we in the history of the freed slaves from Egypt? And this is how you have to look at it. Otherwise, it kind of gets complicated. From chapter 19 of the book of Exodus until chapter 9 of the book of Numbers, the Israelites, the Jews, are all in one place.
Oh,
They have not moved at all. I know that's hard to believe, right?
that's a lot
It's
of...
like there's a lot of stuff going on. They haven't really made any progress. Well, what happens is that those sections, beginning on chapter 19 of the book of Exodus, are all related to the revelation at Mount Sinai, which after that continues into the designing, construction, and finally building of the Mishkan, the tabernacle, and the consecration of the tabernacle and all the things that have to happen. And some of those things are repeated twice. First, the Torah explains what we should be doing, and then it tells us that we're doing it, and then that we've done it. So that's why it takes so many chapters to get here, and there are lots of laws in between. But chapter 9 is significant because now is when they resume the march through the desert, through the wilderness. Now, mind you, in Parashat Shlach Lecha, which is coming up, we will find out that what they thought it was going to take a few months is going to take 40 years. But then we're not there. They don't know about it. So they've been sitting around Mount Sinai for all these months, and now it's time to move. Seems hopeful. You just wait, and it won't be in it a little bit. But let's stay hopeful today. And now, how is the camp to know when to move and when to stop? You know, there are no cell phones, there are no megaphones, there are nothing. And in theory, there are 600,000 adult males plus all the families, so that's a lot of people. You can't just say, just remember, when we have people in the building and we have a special nosh or something, how difficult it is to get people from the ulam into the sanctuary. Can you imagine the same, multiply by thousands and all Jewish, and they say we're going to move? It's going to take a long time. So that's where Moses needs a little help from God. And the way that this happens, and this is the reading we're doing today, is that the cloud is a sort of a fire cloud. There's fire inside, and there's a cloud, and this is our cloud. Here, if you remember that we call this the cloud that followed the Mishkan, the sanctuary. It's kind of a signal system, right? When the cloud stationary, then that means that they say if the cloud starts moving, then they will move. It didn't happen automatically. In other words, what happened is that the cloud was on top of the Mishkan according to the Torah, and eventually the cloud would lift overnight, and that was a sign to pick up the camp. So they had time to do that, and then the cloud would move, and then they would move. In the Etz Chaim commentary on Exodus 40:34, which is the previous time in the Torah where this description of the cloud is found, so there's a little bit of repetition here, and there's been many commentaries why it's so, but we're not going to go into that today. The Etz Chaim commentator explains what's going on from a visual standpoint as follows. At this point, there are two embodiments of holiness in the Israelite camp. I know we talk about God not being a body, but they seem to need a visual at first to figure out what to do and what's going on. And there are two visuals. The tent of meeting, the Ohel Moed, which in this week's Torah portion is called Ohel Eidut, the tent of the commitment or witnessing, and then the tabernacle, the Mishkan. And the commentator suggests that we can think of them as representing a theology of encounter in the Ohel Moed and a theology of presence in the tabernacle. By this, he means that the Ohel Moed is the place where the priest will go to meet God, or God's representation, or embodiment. And then the tabernacle was a place that reminded the people that God dwelled amongst them. Right? By the way, that's the quote that we have at the opening of our Sidur. Mishkan Tfilah comes from that. Ve'asuli mikdash v'shachanti v'tocham. They shall build me a sanctuary, and I shall dwell among them. And the explanation follows like this, continues like this. There are moments, a wedding, a birth of a child, escape from danger, when God erupts into our lives with a special intensity that transforms us, that is too intense to be lived constantly. In other words, the Ohel Moed couldn't be something that you can live with every single moment of the life of the Israelites. So, and there are other times when God is a constant presence in our lives, marriage, parenthood, years of good health, and it is an equally real, but it's less intense. The challenge, of course, is always to recognize God's constant presence in our lives without becoming so ordinary that we take it for granted. And for the Israelites, the cloud represented that constant presence of God. And many people have suggested, many commentators, that this is the divine protection, is something constant. But no longer, like would have happened on Mount Sinai, the cloud there in Mount Sinai was the symbol that God was communicating with Moses. Here, the cloud is more of like the constant presence of God. And it's a visual reminder. But a lot of commentators, Gunther Plaut, Rabbi Gunther Plaut in particular, question this idea that the Israelites then and us need a visual reminder of the constant presence of God. Maybe it was a concession to the Israelites, right? Because they were coming out of a society where the visual was very important. We don't have any YouTube videos of Pharaoh 5,000 years ago, but I'm sure it was quite impressive. More impressive than what Hollywood can ever conjure about the ancient Egyptians. Lots of gold, lots of lapis lazuli, blue stuff, and all that. But Judaism might have begun in the wilderness as a nation that needed the visual, but that is not all of it. And in this week's Torah portion, we really find the two ways in which we relate to God, or in the two ways in which will define Judaism from now on. It is the visual on one part and the auditory on the other. Because the next section that we are not reading, because we don't read the whole thing, but just next to the visual of the cloud and the fire is the prescription to build, to create, to make trumpets, chatzotzot. Now, it's not a shofar, but the sound is going to be familiar. The Torah talks about truah and all the sounds that we are familiar with. So, on the one hand, we have the visual, the cloud, which could be very reassuring, but the actual movement happened not when the cloud moved, but when the shofar or the chatzotzot, the trumpets, were sounded. And Rabbi Plaut writes, the cloud was a visual, the trumpets an auditory reminder of God's presence. And somehow Jewish instincts never quite trusted the witness of the eyes. And in the desert, there are many examples in the wilderness of the Israelites looking for a visual cue, and it wasn't enough, right? Because they couldn't see Moses anymore, and then they built the golden calf. They needed a visual. Moses performed signs, and this could be duplicated. What he said, although, could not. At Sinai, the emphasis was not so much on what the people saw, but more importantly, in what they heard. At Mount Sinai, they're supposedly say, Naseh v'nishma, we will do and we will listen. There's no visual involved here. The true key word in Judaism, Rabbi Plaut concludes, is not re'eh. And you'll see the word re'eh a lot in the section we're reading, mareh esh. So the visual of the fire and the cloud. But the key word in Judaism is really shema, hear, listen. The cloud is gone in the sense that we don't see that cloud anymore, but the sound of the shofar remains. We have evolved, if you want, into an auditory tradition in which listening, hearing is at the center, and the visual is less so. Although we do have a beautiful sanctuary, but hasn't disappeared. But our main center of gravity in Judaism is the listening to the words of Torah, listen to interpretations, singing, listening to each other's voices. That's, I think, why it's been so difficult for us in the last year and a half, right?
Yeah.
Because we can see each other, but we can really hear. But you can hear me, but I can't hear you. And so we kind of lost that Shema piece.
Yes.
So we gotten really good at the visual thanks to our our wonderful team group led by Dave. But and you can hear us too. But the sound is what brings us together, and I hope that it will come back. We're working on that, and we'll be there very soon. So here is the section from the Torah that talks about the cloud. we will be reading from Numbers 9, beginning in verse 15. Wait a minute. We join together in the blessings on page 369. Alternative blessings before the reading of the Torah. Holy One of blessing, your presence fills creation. You have enlightened this path with the wisdom of Torah, giving it to the Jewish people as their particular way. Blessed are you, merciful one, who gives this Torah to the Jewish people.
Amen.
אמן. וביום הקים את המשכן, כיסה הענן, את המשכן לאוהל העדות, ובערב יהי על המשכן כמרש עד בוקר. כן יהיה תמיד הענן יכסנו, ומרעש לילה. ולפי העלות ענן מעל האוהל, ואחרי כן ייסעו בני ישראל, ובמקום אשר ישכון שם הענן, שם יחנו בני ישראל. על פי אדוני ייסעו בני ישראל, ועל פי אדוני יחנו כל ימי אשר ישכון הענן, על המשכן יחנו. We continue with the alternative blessings after the reading of the Torah. Holy One of blessings, your presence fills creation. This Torah is a teaching of truth, whole and balanced, and from it comes eternal life for the people who embrace it. Blessed are you, merciful one, who gives this Torah to the Jewish people.
Amen.
We now turn our thoughts to those in need of healing. You may have access to the Misheberach list through the e-news that you receive Friday morning. And also you can follow the link in the comments. And we invite you to offer names as well. Please type them in the comments so we can all see them and then click enter. Let's go ahead and begin typing as together on page 371 we join in offering Misheberach prayer.
Source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shalema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
Our service for the reading of the Torah concludes with Etz Chaim on page 374.
Etz Chaim hi, lama chazikim תשמנו כקדם.
We prepare for a moment of remembrance. I invite you to turn to page 593. In nature's ebb and flow, God's eternal law abides. When tears dim our vision or grief clouds our understanding, we often lose sight of God's eternal plan. Yet we know that growth and decay, life and death, all reveal a divine purpose. God, who is our support in the struggles of life, is also our hope in death. We have set God before us and shall not despair. In God's hands are the souls of all the living and the spirits of all flesh. Under God's protection we abide, and by God's love we are comforted. O life of our life, soul of our soul, cause your light to shine into our hearts and fill our spirits with abiding trust in you. If you join us on this Shabbat morning and are remembering a loved one, we invite you to type their names in the comments. As a congregation, we're observing the Shiva period for Corinne Rope, mother and mother-in-law of Cliff and Stacy Rope, and Shloshim for Charlotte Cohen, mother and mother-in-law of Susan Cohen and Mitchell Krasnopoller, and for Phyllis Lensky, cousin of Judy Weingarten. On this Shabbat, we remember the following yortzites of members of our congregation: Rita Balo, Beverly Banks, Madeleine Capel Chapman, Max Cohn, Peter Dale, Top Epstein, Ethel Firestone, Louise H. Goldstein, Gertrude Klinock, Helen Koffler, Joseph Aaron Cram, Ben Rosenthal, Delvin Rothman, Irvin Schlachter, Clifford Schlesinger, Irene Schulman, Isidore Schaefer, Caliph Shaw, Leon A. Smith, Alvin H. Strauss, Eve Turner, William Weinling, Rose Weingarten, Viola May Watt Worthington, Albert Worthy. Zichronam Livracha, may the memories be for a blessing. On page 598, we join together in the mourners Kaddish, Kaddish Yatom. Itgadal ve'itkadash shemei rabah ve'alema divra chirute ve'amlich malchute בחייכון וביומכון ובחיי דכל בית ישראל בעגלה ובזמן קריב ואמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מברך לעלם ולעלמי עלמיה, יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל, שמי דקודשה בריחו, לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, דאמירם בעלמה ואמרו אמן. יהא שלמה רבה מן שמיה, וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן.
עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל.
It is time for some announcements. I'd like to thank everyone who's joining us this Shabbat morning from our area and from around the country and perhaps the world. Special thanks to Leslie Zucker for the music and to our technical team for managing everything behind the scenes. Our next Shabbat service is Friday, June the 4th. That doesn't sound right.
It just doesn't look right.
6:30 p.m. Due to privacy health care regulations, just a reminder, we do not receive information from hospitals or nursing homes. So we at CVT may not be aware when you are in the hospital or at another facility. So we need your help. If you would like us to know, get in touch with us or ask a family member to do so. You may also want to consider adding call CVT rabbis to your emergency instructions.
And next week, as you said, is June. So song session will be on Tuesday, 7 o'clock on our virtual platforms. And then in June, we're also doing a Mazel Tov Havdalah. So we're doing a Havdalah where we will have our dogs. We do ask when you bring your animals to have them on a leash and make sure that all of their shots are up to date. And that will be June 12th at 7 o'clock. BYOD, bring your own dog. To the CBT backyard for a blessing and a treat. And we will also take a moment to remember our pets who have passed on from this plane of existence. And it will also be streamed on our platform. So if you can't be here in person, that will be okay. And because we have dogs, there is no rain plan.
Right.
It will be outside or it will be in our hearts.
And we're also collecting new
right.
toys for dogs.
Not used toys. So bring your new dog toys and we will be donating them to dogs in need. I'm not sure which shelter, but we are working on that.
We're working on that. Thank you, Leslie. We conclude together singing Enkel Eloheinu on page 626.
Enkel
Eloheinu, en Kadonenu, en Kemalkeinu, en Kemoshienu, en Eloheinu, en Kadonenu, en Kemalkeinu, en Kemoshienu. Mi Eloheinu, mi Kadonenu, mi Kemalkeinu, mi Kemoshienu.
En Eloheinu,
en Kadonenu, en Kemalkeinu, en Kemoshienu, en Eloheinu, en Kadonenu, en Kemalkeinu, en Kemoshienu. Atahu Eloheinu, Atahu Adonenu, Atahu Malkeinu, Atahu Moshienu. Ein Keloheinu, en Kadonenu, en Kemalkeinu, en Kemoshienu, en Keloheinu, en Kadonenu, en Kemalkeinu, en Kemoshienu.
Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Have a wonderful weekend.
take care of each other out there.